Hi, and welcome back to Glassboxed, my top 10 tech tips. Today we're going to look through what I think are the top 10 tips for someone to start writing Cucumber tests, or more specifically to start building and writing various tests for a Cucumber framework. In no particular order of importance, we will look through what I think are the top 10 tips for a beginner Cucumber automation framework. Number 10. Write step definitions with defined scope. Well, what does scope inside a step definition mean? Well, when you write the logic of a step definition, try to write the logic which is relevant to your step, and anything that is not relevant to your step, try to do it outside somewhere else. For instance, here we are just trying to navigate to the zoo. So the logic in this particular method, at first this creates the driver and then navigates to the zoo. Here, however, the same step, its logic is much more defined in scope, and it's only navigating to a particular site, exactly what the step definition is described to do. So yeah, have your logic reflect the description of your step. Number 9. Write before and after hooks for better test management. So this almost goes without saying, really. Try and write a before method and an after method to better manage your tests. So a prime example of using these methods, in particular if you're trying to build a WebDriver framework using Cucumber, try to manage your WebDriver and anything else, such as looking through data tables through SQL, for instance, as an example. Do all of that stuff in the before and after methods. That way you won't populate your tests with logic which doesn't belong in your test. It will help in the long run in trying to manage logic which is not a part of your test outside in more reasonable methods. Number 8. Write multiple step definition classes. Instead of writing one step definition class which has all your steps, try and write multiple step definition classes. Remember, when your feature files run, they don't look for a class and then a step in that. They scan all of your step definition classes and then pick up the relevant steps. If you write multiple step definition classes, it can help you to isolate steps which happen on, say, particular pages, for instance. If you have one step definition class, and let's just say for argument's sake you have over 100 feature files, your step definition class, your single step definition class, is just going to be so crazy and so ginormous. It's going to be insanely difficult to manage. So yeah, write multiple step definition classes to better manage the structure of your step definitions. It will help in the long run. Number 7. Use build tools for better project management. Instead of manually looking for jars or manually having to fish for information all over the web, try and use a build management tool such as Maven or Gradle or Ant, which can help you out when it comes to looking for jars, creating tasks, and various other things. Using build tools, and in particular their configuration, can really help you to speed up various processes as well as keeping your framework up to date. Number 6. Generate reports to help distribute test results. If you run your test locally and you get all the outputs in a console window, that's fine for you locally. But if you need to distribute your results of the test that you ran to various other people on, say, different levels of your business or clients, for instance, then generate reports. All you have to do then is just pass the reports. Naturally, they don't look at the code, or if you like, non-technical people won't understand code. But reports such as this, which is on one level almost written in plain English, everyone understands, and it gives people a better understanding of the type of tests you have written and the type of coverage you have just by looking at reports, as well as the pass and failure rate of the application which your tests are running against. So generate reports. It helps bridge gaps between technical and non-technical people. Number 5. use runner classes instead of feature files to run your tests. So when you run a feature file, it simply runs all the scenarios you have, and in turn runs all your steps for all of your given scenarios. But running a single feature file means you are only running that one feature file, and you lose the ability to generate reports. If you run it via a test runner class, for instance, this can run multiple features at the same time. If you have some kind of tag support, it can also help generate reports in various formats. So use runner classes to give you more control over running multiple tests at the same time. Number 4. Use parameters in feature files for steps that slightly differ. So here we have 3 different scenarios, but the steps are almost identical. The only difference in some of the steps shared by all 3 scenarios is this when step as well as this given step. So in the given step, it's exactly the same. In essence, what we're doing is just navigating to a site. But in the when step, we are slightly differing by the link that we are navigating to. So instead of hard coding this in and having to write 3 different steps, write a single step which takes a parameter. This way you can reuse this one step but pass in a different parameter, therefore speeding up your process of writing steps and also minimizing the amount of code duplication you have in code. Number 3. Use data tables instead of multiple parameters. So here we have 2 scenarios, both doing exactly the same thing. In the first one, we navigate to the site and then we navigate to the contact page and we fill in a couple of fields. We fill in the name field, the email field, the postcode field and the message field, and we pass in these values. But notice that we are actually hard coding these parameters in very particular steps. If you notice, the name, email, post and message, all of these steps are actually different steps. So in essence, what we're doing is writing 4 different steps. Instead of doing that, you could alternatively just write one step which takes in an array of information and achieves the same thing. So by using data tables, we achieve the same result in one step as opposed to doing the same thing using 4 different steps. Number 2. Use scenario outline data tables instead of repeating similar scenarios. So here we have 3 scenarios, all which navigate to a particular page after opening the site, and then check to see that the page contains a particular title. So all of these 3 scenarios are using exactly the same step, but the results of each step differ based on the parameter we pass in. But we are still duplicating the scenarios multiple times. Instead of using this approach, use scenario outline data tables. Identify your scenario as a scenario outline, which gives you the ability to use an examples table, and then pass in the examples as parameters via table header names in your scenario outline. That way, instead of having to write multiple scenarios, you just add in an extra row to your example table to cater for any other additional requirement of a page title check without having to write out a full scenario again. Number 1. Always write a feature statement for all your feature files. When you have a feature file which may have maybe 3 or 4 scenarios, it's not difficult for someone to figure out what the feature file may be. But if you have a feature file with 10, 20, 30 odd scenarios, it can become very confusing what the purpose of the feature file actually is. And when identifying via a report of the scenarios run, it makes it even more difficult. However, if you include a single line, the feature keyword, along with a description of what the feature file is, this helps understand what the feature file is catered to test for. In essence, another way to think of it is, if someone were to get a list of multiple different reports, instead of having to look through the scenarios, they can just read a one-line feature file and grasp an understanding of the kind of tests you have. So write features when you can as part of your feature file. And that's it for this video, folks. If you enjoy my top 10 videos, then please subscribe and rate. If you have any questions or any top 10 video suggestions, then please leave a comment below. Many thanks for watching. Until next time, ciao!